What up, brothers? Welcome back to Throwing Hands. It's me, it's Toby, and we're reviewing UFC 290. Personally, I'm going to give this card an A. The only thing that's stopping it from being an A plus, I will mention later. But Toby, what do you give this card?
I would say it's definitely one of the better cards I've seen of the year, probably in the past couple of years. Honestly, it was fantastic.
It was indeed fantastic. Couple things from the early prelims. Jesus Aguilar, one of the gnarliest knockouts you'll see, especially when it comes to flyweight. Um, Hella impressive, I think. What are your thoughts on that Aguilar knockout, man?
Yeah, it was amazing watching it live. You rarely see knockouts like that at Fly, and respect to him for not following up after clear one punch knockout.
Exactly. I can't say much more about that. Cameron Simon really showed out with the submission win in the first over the KO rather over Terrence Mitchell. I think Simon can be a really big problem in this bantamweight division, especially I think he's only 23, but give him a few years, I think you might see him in that top 15.
Yeah, he's a quick, powerful guy. He's clearly pretty well rounded. Yeah, it looked like South Africa got a pretty legit MMA scene coming up.
Yeah, that's something to say. Um,
Right?
we'll talk about it more later. Jimmy Crute versus Alonzo Menafield. Alonzo Menafield slipped the gilly real quick in this one after a Crute takedown attempt, and it appears that Crute put his gloves in the center of the octagon to retire. I hope he doesn't because I think he's really good. But Menafield, that was a really slick submission. I was actually surprised by it pleasantly. So I props to him on that slick submission win.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was a little bit shocked by that Minifield sub. He ripped the guillotine up real tight, and I thought he didn't have it quite locked in at first, but when he turned him over, it was definitely in there. And yeah, Crute, I hope he doesn't retire. I thought that's what he was doing as well. I think his team was trying to tell him like, don't retire. So hopefully he sticks with it, man.
Yeah, I really hope so too because I think he's a solid talent. All right, Denise Gomes beat Howergy. I'm about 95% sure that's how it's said now, but
Yeah.
hit her with the right, set her down. That fight really could have stopped because the back of her head did hit the floor. I think Mark Smith was just going to step in right then and there. No, it was Herzog, I remember. Yeah, I'm like, oh, this stopped the fight, but then Gomes landed a few more ground and pound shots, and the fight was over. Quickest finish in strawweight history. Can't really get much of a better performance than that if you're Gomes.
Yeah, that was super impressive by Gomes. I mean, she tore right through her. I won't say that I expected that, but I definitely had high expectations for Denise Gomes. I think she's pretty talented, especially after that Brenda Brazil fight. I thought she was really good. And yeah, I mean, Hargi's legit as well. So for her to get run through like that is pretty impressive by Gomes.
It indeed is. Tatsuro Taira versus Edgar Shires. Shires won the first round, but outside of that, Tyra really did put in the work, and he did look pretty good. He was throwing up submissions. You really couldn't have asked for much more from Tyra in regards to his performance, especially with an experienced vet coming in on short notice. So props to Tyra. I thought he did great.
Yeah, the only thing you could ask for really is a finish, but he was active on top. He was looking for submissions. It was a great performance. He pretty much dominated after that first round. So, yeah, he's legit. He's a really good prospect.
He indeed is. Man, the MMA gods were favorable to us with this one. Robbie Lawler getting knockout after 38 seconds of the first round over Nico Price. Got him in that collar, tied him like, oh my gosh, this would be poetry if it was like this in a brawling setting, and he just did it, man. I really hope Robbie Lawler just stays retired. No BKFC jiu-jitsu tournaments at the most. But I think you couldn't write a better ending.
No, that was a storybook ending. It was incredible. Just watching that tribute for the fight and him and after the fight too, him getting so emotional. I mean, that was just incredible to watch. And then his performance in there, man. I mean, he just took it to Nico Price, landed a couple good shots on the chin, on the temple, and just knocked him out. I mean, flat, knocked him out cold. It was unbelievable. I have so much respect for Robbie, for who he is, what he's done for this sport. I saw someone too saying like maybe Nico Price should have retired with him. It's like, yeah, his chin might be gone at this point, you know?
Yeah, I mean, all Nico Price likes to do is swing and bang, it seems like. So it's not exactly a style
Yeah,
favorable to longevity. So Nico Price has had a fun career, I'll say that. I hope he
no,
does hang it up. I think it's the right decision. But Bo
yeah.
Nickel, good lord. Good lord. Beat Val Woodburn on the feet. That left uppercut was nasty. That set him down. And he was getting in and out of range really quickly. I think he set up the hands with the takedown attempt, honestly. Because I thought Val Woodburn was expecting to go down real quick, but Bo Nickel, man, he's legit. But I hope they give him someone top 15 next because he really is that good.
Yeah, this is the type of performance that you love to see from a young wrestler coming up in MMA. And you can always kind of tell when a guy, like, yeah, Val Woodburn isn't exactly the most talented fighter in the world, but Bo Nickel, his hands looked really sharp. Like his punches were accurate, they were crisp. He is a very talented fighter. And if there's anything we know about these guys that come from these great wrestling bases, is that they can pick up other disciplines very quickly. So I think that he's going to pick up boxing very quickly, pick up jujitsu. We've already seen that with the submission now, with the knockout. I think he is a really dangerous guy in the middleweight division.
The sky's the limit. That's really all we can say. But man, Dan Hooker, he lost that first round. He was losing most of the second round until he decided to turn it on. Um, I don't know how he didn't get knocked out by that head kick. I thought he was down for the count after that thing hit. He broke his orbital bone off of that, I'm pretty sure. But Jalen Turner is officially a weight bully now. He missed weight. He came in at 158. But Dan Hooker, man, I'm so happy he got the win. I thought he was gonna he was he could have finished Jalen Turner if there was more in the second round, I think, or if he just had him stand up in the third round. But Dan Hooker got the win. I'm so happy. I thought Jalen Turner was really gonna put it on him.
Yeah, so did I, honestly. I'm still pretty high on Jalen Turner. I know he missed weight and lost his fight, but I still think he has a lot of room for growth and he has a place here in the lightweight division or even the welterweight division. But yeah, Dan Hooker, it's great to see. I mean, anybody that was saying, oh, he's washed, his chin is gone. Well, he took some huge shots from Jalen Turner and he was able to fight through that and very close to getting that finish in the second round. And like you said, literally a few more seconds and he 100% would have gotten the finish. So he displayed some classic toughness and it was a great performance by Dan Hooker. I was really impressed by him. And this is a big win. This is now two in a row. This is a guy who was ranked one spot ahead of him. So he's now looking at another top 10 fight. So
Yeah. So shout out Dan Hooker, man. Shout out to Dan Hooker. Um, I'm gonna try and talk about this without crying. Um, man, dude, Bobby Knuckles got beat by Drakus. I don't know how to feel about it because I swear this dude keeps winning fights on accident. Like it doesn't make sense to me. He is not a technician by any means in any facet of MMA. Not, he's just huge. He's strong, and the only ounce of fight IQ I ever saw from this guy was he went to the body against Whitaker when he had him up against the fence just seconds before he finished him. That's the only ounce of fight IQ I've seen out of this guy. Yet he keeps winning, and I can't stand it.
yeah, I mean, look, I am very happy and very willing to eat my words on this one. Although, like you said, this guy is not a technician or anything, but man, he has really good cardio. He's powerful and he's durable. I mean, those are the three traits that he has that will carry him a long way. And it already has. I mean, to finish a guy like Robert Whitaker, something that Yoel Romero couldn't do, something that Derek Brunson and Jacare, all these guys couldn't do to Whitaker. But yeah, Duplessis was somehow able to finish him in the second round. After that right hand, that right straight landed, and Whitaker, went face down, his hands hit the canvas. I was like, man, he is hurt really badly. And Duplessis saw that and pounced on him for the finish. I mean, like I said, all respect to Duplessis. It was a great performance. That's a huge victory for him. He gets a title shot now. And I was saying before this, like, it's Robert Whitaker fight week. And I still, I love Rob. I'll never not love Robert Whitaker. But man, yeah, I think it was a great victory for Duplessis.
Yeah, and like I think the one thing I said about Whitaker's performance is that he seemed a little timid, but outside of that, that was Bobby Knuckles, man. Like I don't know, it just seemed like he wasn't putting together as many combos as usual. But I'm not going to take away from Duplessis. Duplessis won that fight, and we're getting the battle for Africa. So can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Can't wait.
think Rob, it seemed like his strikes, he wasn't putting full power into a lot of them. I think part of that, just Duplessis seems to have a pretty good high guard. He shells up pretty well and takes punches well. So I think Whitaker was maybe a little hesitant because of that. But yeah, the whole, Battle for Africa, it's going to be a great setup to that fight. It was interesting when they brought Izzy into the octagon. It was a little cringe, man. I'm not, it was a bit
Yeah,
weird,
we're not going to
but
touch on that too much. Izzy was a little slammed, I'm pretty sure.
yeah,
Um,
it
but
seemed like it.
um, and Duplessis hit Whitaker with the head and arm throw, the women's MMA's favorite move. Ugh, I
he
don't
he
know, man.
disrespected him so much, man. You know, just come on.
Yeah, I hope Duplessis wins the title for the memes. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, why not?
Whitaker Strickland,
Yeah, the fight to make probably.
yeah, sadly. Damn. Bobby Knuckles lost. I'm I'm disappointed. um all right, best flyweight title fight of all time. Brandon Moreno versus Alexandre Pantoja. What a fight. Also, people saying Brandon Moreno won, stop it. Oh, Brandon Moreno won the fight, but not the cards. Stop. Pantoja easily won this fight with the ground control. And people saying, "Oh, Moreno was piecing him up." Pantoja wasn't necessarily landing pillow punches either. He was landing some gnarly shots, and he was only outstruck by 2 total strikes and 18 significant strikes. So that's only 3 or 4 significant strikes per round. It's not such a large margin. And Pantoja with the ground control time, I don't know what else you're asking for. He looked phenomenal. And whoever gave that, I think it was Ben Cartlidge. He's usually a pretty reliable judge. 49-46 Moreno. Come on, that's ridiculous. It was 49-46 Pantoja or 48-47 Pantoja at the best, at the worst. So, yeah, what were your thoughts? This was an awesome fight.
Incredible fight. Yeah, like you said it, man. Probably the best flyweight title fight, either that or Brandon and Figgy. I think their first fight. I mean, they had a couple of really all-time great fights, but yeah, a horrible scorecard. 4 rounds to 1 for Moreno. There's no chance. I mean, on first watch, I had it 4 rounds to 1 for Pantoja. I could see 3-2 Pantoja, but I thought he clearly won that fight. Like you mentioned, people saying, "Oh, like look at Pantoja's face after the fight. He was busted up, this and that." Did you see Moreno's face after the fight? Because he was also busted up and, they're hitting each other on the feet. And when you have even striking exchanges on the feet, what does it come down to? It comes down to the grappling exchanges. And not only was Pantoja just taking him down and holding him down, he was being effective. He was landing shots on the ground. He was working towards submissions. And credit to Moreno, he has great submission defense, great defense generally on the ground. But it's not like he got a couple of reversals, but Pantoja was controlling the ground exchanges pretty clearly. So I think it was definitely a clear victory for him. But I mean, it was an incredible fight. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight again. I don't know if they should run it back immediately, but I would love to see it again.
Yeah, I don't know if they should run it back immediately either. I think they will. There's no real clear other title contender, to be honest. And I think I texted you Albazi. Maybe a little fraud check potentially. I like Albazi though. I think he's actually really good, but that's what other people would think. Let's take a look at the rankings. I think that yeah, Pantoja's. Yeah, I think they got to run it back. I think Albazi needs one more fight. or maybe Royval. I think Royval deserves a title shot potentially. So that's there's options.
Even if Royval on paper doesn't, I mean, I think he could get a title shot. I would love to see Brandon Royval in a title fight, just regardless. He is one of the most exciting fighters, regardless of weight class.
He subbed Kai Kara France. He's really good. He is super good. Um, yeah, I love Royval. He's one of my favorites. And I think Moreno got the title shot off a win against Royval. So yeah, I love the idea of it, man.
Yeah, in that fight too, Royval blew his shoulder out completely. So I mean, I'm sure it was going to be a really good scrap, but yeah, Royval got hurt in that fight. So
Yeah. All right. This dude Volkanovski can't lose in featherweight, man. He's that good. He is that good. Um, Masterclass of distance management and grappling and timing. Yair, if Yair kept up the kicks consistently, he could have won the fight, but you can't do that. And Volkanovski's timing was magnificent. 149 total strikes in 3 rounds. I don't get it. He is that good, guys. He's gonna be tough to beat. And you know, what's his face? Bilal Muhammad was like the headbutt affected it. Yeah, it did, but Rodriguez could have taken the 5 minutes, but he chose not to. So that's his choice. But I think, yeah, Vocal. I don't know. He's that good. I think Topuria is really the only one that can match this guy in the division. And I'm biased. I love Ilya Topuria.
yeah, I mean, I think sure, like the headbutt did play a role, obviously, but you know, we all knew where that fight was going. The first 2 rounds, Volk dominated on the ground, and then even when they were in the striking exchanges, Yair was not able to get off any of his signature kicks. Like you saw, yeah, he threw a couple of flashy techniques, but for the most part, Volk was able to stifle that just because he manages distance so well, and he is constantly switching stances. Like something that is so incredible about Volkanovski is that he basically doesn't have a preferred stance. He doesn't have he has a fluid stance. He just goes in between orthodox and southpaw, which makes it extremely difficult to make any reads on him. You can't set up your offense because if you're building to fight a guy who's primarily orthodox, you set up your offense to fight that guy in that stance. And so for him to just switch back and forth like that makes it incredibly hard to set anything up. And he sets up so many counters off that, like the leg kick, I mean, it's just incredible. Every time you watch Volkanovski fight, he seems to get better. And it seems like he's facing more challenging opponents and he still continues to get that much better. It's unbelievable the level of talent that we're seeing right now in Alexander Volkanovski. And he's, 35 years old. This is still near the tail end of the prime of his career. I mean, it's so exciting to see.
It is very exciting, and it's like Volk leaned into his video game chair after he got hit, landed that right hook, then just brought it to the ground. That ground and pound was vicious. At the end of the fight, who beats Volk, man? And at featherweight, I thought he beat Islam personally. I got to rewatch that fight, but who beats this dude, man? I think Taporia can beat this guy, but it's a very much an uphill battle for him.
Yeah, I think the only legitimate threat even is Taporia, and I'm not 100% convinced that Taporia would win that fight. I mean, I think he definitely could win that fight, but there's nobody else outside of that that I think would even come close at this point to Volkanovski. So I think, do the Taporia fight if he wins that. I want to see him back up at lightweight. You could do the Islam rematch in a couple months if they wanted to. I wouldn't mind seeing that either. But yeah, I mean, this is just the level that he is at is so phenomenal. And like you said, the takedowns and the ground and pound were spectacular. He took Yair down pretty much in the center of the octagon and worked his way over all the way to the cage and controlled him that whole time, and then put his head right up against the side of the octagon cage so that Yair was limited in throwing up his submissions. And then he just landed nasty ground and pound from that position. So he's always a step ahead. Like no matter what Yair was doing, and he's a very unpredictable guy. Volk was just one step ahead already.
It was a beautiful thing. It was beautiful. I don't know who Yair fights next. Arnold Allen, I think that's a fight for Yair personally, but Topuria Volk, that's next. Volk doesn't want Ilya to fight anybody because he wants to take Ilya 0. So I think the two next fights are set in the division for these two guys at least.
Yeah, I think so as well. And it's a great matchup. I mean, anybody who looks at this fight and underestimates Topuria, like, yes, obviously Volkanovski is a like generational talent, one of the best fighters we've ever seen. But do not underestimate Topuria by any means. This dude is very well rounded. He is so powerful, so quick, great cardio, great grappling. I mean, he is a legitimate threat to Volk. But I think it's just going to be such a good fight, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Um, EA Sports UFC 5 announced. So, full reveal set for September. So that'll be fun. You and I had a few bouts in the station regarding with in UFC 4. I got wrecked by you, but I've been in the lab, so expect possibly a different result. Probably not, but
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get UFC 5 just because UFC 4 makes me rage so much. I play online world championships. I played a little bit more than I would like to admit, but I've gotten up to a pretty high level on that game, up to like 18, 19, and it just gets so difficult and so annoying to deal with at that point. So I mean, and also the mechanics of the game are a bit weird compared to UFC 3. I was a big UFC 3 guy, so maybe I'm a bit biased, but hopefully they make some changes to UFC 5. I think it'll be a fun game though.
should be a fun game. Vanderlei Silva's fighting Felipe Franco in a boxing match. Interesting. Um, I don't know. It's been quiet,
Uh,
but that's usually what happens. Days after fights. So hopefully we'll have a lot more this
did
week
we
because
announce last time John versus Stipe
yeah.
at
Oh,
295?
yes, yes, yes. Oh, hold on. We actually have a ton to talk. Jones versus Stipe set for MSG. Um. In in November. Uh. So someone said this is the fight we need and don't need at the same time. And I think that's a pretty good way to put it. I love Stipe, but I fear for him.
Yeah, yeah. When I saw that fight was announced, like obviously I love Stipe. I want him to come back. I want to see him fight John. I think he's the greatest heavyweight of all time for sure, especially just based on accomplishments. But yeah, I mean Stipe's I think he's been out for like 3.5 years at this point, and his most recent fight was getting brutally knocked out, or 2.5 years, sorry. But his most recent fight is getting brutally knocked out by Francis Ngannou. So it's not exactly a good fight to be coming off of. And keep in mind too that Stipe is a firefighter, and so he's not training constantly. Like John, we know when he was off, he was training constantly, waiting for this comeback, waiting for this opportunity. And I'm sure Stipe has been training. I just don't know if he's been able to dedicate quite as much time as John was able to in his comeback. So I think I'm a bit fearful for Stipe. I think this is a very dangerous matchup for him in every area.
If you guys are wondering how long it's been since Stipe's fought, he hasn't fought in the Venom shorts yet. So that if I think that's a pretty good indicator of how long it's been since he's fought. Um, Marlon Vera will fight Pedro Munoz. Banger, 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 banger. I can't wait for that one. I love bantamweight.
Yeah, that is a great fight. I was really hoping they were going to keep Cheeto on that card. I like watching Cheeto fight. He can be a bit inactive sometimes, but he's pretty exciting for the most part. And it's always fun to see Pedro Munoz when he shows up. I mean, he's had a couple of fights too where he hasn't been the most active, but typically his fights are bangers for sure. I think that's a great matchup. I think honestly to fight that Pedro could win too because Cheeto, a lot of the guys that he faces, he gets them by countering them, right? Like, they're pressuring forward and he'll just counter based on their aggressiveness. But I don't know if Pedro will make that same mistake like Dom Cruz made or Rob Font made. I think it's going to be a pretty favorable matchup for Pedro Munoz, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. One more thing. I think this is a good Jack Della Maddalena looking for an opponent next week, but um Josiah Harrow, whom he was supposed to fight, had to pull out because he has a rare brain disease, and it's like plaque in the brain and stuff. And he was put in high risk of stroke, so he had to get pulled out of the fight. Um, so he'll be fine, he said. So, you
Yeah.
know, UFC the physical probably saved his life, or like the quality of his life. So shout out to the UFC medical staff for keeping this guy uh on track, and I hope they keep him. So yeah, good for him, man.
Yeah, that was phenomenal when I saw that. You never want to see that diagnosis for someone, but it is great that they were able to diagnose that and he's going to be able to get proper treatment now. And yeah, it was just like a routine MRI they were doing, pre-fight MRI, and they caught that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's a very scary time for him and his loved one, but I'm sure, he'll be fine. He'll get through it. And yeah, I hope to see him fight in the UFC eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. So tiny vessels in the brain are blocked. It's called moya moya. Interesting. Anyway, so that's a quickie here from Throwing Hands. Next time you guys see me and Toby, we'll be kind of reviewing the gear that has occurred. We'll touch on the Holm versus Mayer Bueno Silva card. Fun fact: you have to wait until the 8th fight of the card to find somebody who is coming off a win. So shows you the quality of this card. Do you want to speak on that, Toby? That's kind of ridiculous. Saying it out loud, it sounds insane.
Yeah, I was talking to my dad about that earlier. It seems like the UFC is just meeting their obligation. They're like, well, we've got to put on a card this weekend, and we just had a banger pay-per-view International Fight Week last week. Let's just throw in a bunch of fighters who are on losing streaks into one card. It's like, well, not the highest quality, but
A card is a card. But yeah, so that'll do it for us here at Thrown Hands. When you see us again, mid-year review. It's a good time. Toby, thanks for coming on again, man. Always a pleasure.
yep.
All right, so that'll do it for us here at Thrown Hands. Peace out, y'all.